The story that changed Tesla forever began with a series of dangerous near misses. In early 2023, Tesla's full self-driving technology had reached an impressive 99.7% safety rating in most conditions, but a persistent problem remained: emergency vehicles. Despite numerous software updates and specialized training datasets, Tesla's autonomous vehicles were still struggling to properly identify and respond to ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars, especially in complex urban environments with multiple sound sources. For Elon Musk, this wasn't just a technical challenge. It had become a personal mission. After a Tesla on autopilot narrowly avoided a collision with an ambulance in Chicago, an incident that made national headlines and sent the company's stock tumbling, Musk had assembled a specialized team to solve what they called the siren problem once and for all. "I want solutions that aren't in the current paradigm," he told his team during an emergency meeting at Tesla headquarters. "We've tried conventional approaches. They're not working. I need something radical." What happened next was pure chance, the kind of coincidence that changes the course of innovation history. It was pouring rain in Austin, Texas, and Marcus Johnson was running late. As the head of acoustic engineering for Tesla's autonomous driving division, he had been putting in 16-hour days trying to solve the emergency vehicle detection issue. Exhausted and distracted, he almost didn't stop when he saw the man at the bus stop, completely soaked and apparently struggling to find shelter from the downpour. Something made Johnson pull over. Perhaps it was the white cane the man was holding. Or perhaps it was simply human decency. Either way, he rolled down his window. "Need a ride somewhere?" he called out. The man turned toward his voice, a tall, African-American gentleman in his mid-50s with an athletic build and dark glasses, and smiled. "That would be wonderful, if it's not too much trouble. My bus seems to be running very late." "Hop in," Johnson said, unlocking the doors of his Tesla Model Y. The man found his way to the passenger door with practiced ease, folded his cane, and settled into the seat. "Thank you. I'm Michael Dexter." "Marcus Johnson. Where are you headed?" "The Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. I teach there." As Johnson pulled away from the curb, he tapped the screen to engage the autopilot. Almost immediately, Michael tilted his head slightly. "You might want to take manual control," he said casually. "There's an ambulance coming up behind us about 3 blocks back." Johnson frowned, checking his mirrors. The street behind them was empty, and he couldn't hear anything unusual through the car's excellent soundproofing. "I don't see any." Before he could finish his sentence, the distinctive wail of an ambulance siren became faintly audible. Within moments, the vehicle appeared in his rearview mirror, lights flashing. Johnson quickly took control of the car and pulled over. What surprised him most was that his Tesla's autopilot had given no indication of detecting the approaching emergency vehicle. Not until it was less than a block away, much later than Michael had noticed it. "That was impressive," Johnson said, as they resumed their journey after the ambulance passed. "You heard that before I did, and definitely before the car's systems detected it." Michael smiled slightly. "When you lose one sense, the others compensate. I've been blind since birth. My hearing is, well, let's just say it's highly developed." "How far away was that ambulance when you first heard it?" "About 7 blocks, I'd guess. I could tell from the Doppler effect that it was moving quickly in our direction. The acoustics of these streets create distinctive echo patterns." Johnson, who had dedicated his career to understanding and processing acoustic data for autonomous systems, was intrigued. "Do you mind if I ask you a few more questions about how you perceive sound?" By the time they reached the school, Johnson was convinced he had just met someone extraordinary. Michael's ability to identify, locate, and predict the movement of vehicles based solely on sound wasn't just impressive, it was precisely the kind of capability that Tesla's autonomous systems were struggling to replicate. "Mr. Dexter, this might sound unusual, but would you be interested in consulting on a project I'm working on? It's related to how autonomous vehicles perceive emergency signals." Michael seemed intrigued. "That does sound interesting. I'm always looking for ways to contribute to technology that might eventually help the visually impaired community." They exchanged contact information, and Johnson drove straight back to Tesla headquarters, an idea forming that was either brilliant or career-ending, possibly both. 2 days later, Michael Dexter found himself in a Tesla conference room, signing a non-disclosure agreement before being introduced to a group of engineers who specialized in acoustic perception systems. What had been planned as a 1-hour exploratory meeting turned into a 5-hour deep dive into the fundamentals of auditory perception. Michael described how he could distinguish not just the type of emergency vehicle from its siren pattern, but its approximate model year, how fast it was traveling, whether it was accelerating or decelerating, and even if it was likely to turn based on subtle changes in the sound. The engineers were fascinated, capturing every detail and asking increasingly technical questions. "What's most interesting," Michael explained, "is that I'm not just processing the direct sound. I'm interpreting how that sound interacts with the environment, how it bounces off buildings, how it's absorbed by different materials, how it changes as the vehicle moves through different urban landscapes." One of the engineers looked up from her notes. "That's exactly what our systems struggle with. We can detect a siren, but complex acoustic environments create too many variables for our current algorithms to process efficiently." The meeting should have ended there, a valuable consultation that might inform future development. But Marcus Johnson had a more radical proposal in mind. "I'd like Mr. Dexter to work with us directly," he told his team. "Not just as a consultant, but as a key participant in rebuilding our acoustic perception systems from the ground up." The suggestion raised eyebrows. "He's not an engineer," one team member pointed out. "No," Johnson agreed. "He's something more valuable, a human with the exact capabilities we're trying to replicate in our systems. Instead of guessing how to make our AI better at hearing like a human, we can learn from someone who has mastered the skill out of necessity." The meeting ended without a clear decision, but Johnson wasn't deterred. The next morning, he requested a private meeting with Elon Musk. "You want to hire a blind man to help solve our autonomous driving challenges?" Musk repeated, making sure he'd understood the proposal correctly. "Not just any blind man," Johnson explained. "Michael Dexter has what I can only describe as superhuman auditory processing abilities. His brain has naturally developed the exact capabilities we're trying to artificially create in our systems." Musk was known for embracing unconventional approaches, but this seemed particularly unorthodox. How would this work practically? We'd design a specialized research program. Michael would work with our acoustic engineering team to map how he perceives and processes sound. We'd use advanced neural monitoring to identify which auditory signals trigger which responses. Essentially, we'd be reverse engineering his cognitive processes to inform our AI development. Musk considered the idea for a moment. "I did say I wanted radical solutions," he finally acknowledged. "Set up a demonstration. I want to see his abilities firsthand." The demonstration was arranged for the following week at Tesla's private test track. Michael Dexter stood in the center of the facility, wearing neural monitoring equipment that would record his brain's responses. Around him, various vehicles, some with emergency sirens, others standard cars, would move in patterns unknown to him. His task was to identify and track each vehicle based solely on sound. Elon Musk watched from a control booth, initially skeptical but increasingly intrigued as Michael accurately identified not just the location and type of each vehicle, but predicted their movements before they occurred. Most impressively, he correctly distinguished between real emergency vehicles and other cars playing siren sounds through their speakers, a nuanced distinction that had been particularly challenging for Tesla's systems. He's processing complex acoustic data and making predictions faster than our most advanced algorithms, one engineer noted. "How?" Musk asked simply. "That's what we need to find out," Johnson replied, "and then teach our AI to do the same." By the end of the demonstration, Musk had made his decision. Michael Dexter was offered a position that had never existed before. At Tesla, Chief Auditory Perception Consultant. His role would be to work with the engineering team to translate his natural auditory processing abilities into algorithms that could be integrated into Tesla's autonomous driving systems. For Michael, it was an unexpected turning point in his life. "I never imagined that my blindness would be seen as an asset rather than a limitation," he told his family that evening. "For the first time, I'm valued specifically because of how my brain adapted to being blind, not despite it." The work began immediately. Michael was fitted with advanced neural monitoring equipment that could capture his brain's responses as he identified and tracked sounds. The data was fed into machine learning systems that began to identify patterns in how his brain processed complex acoustic information. The most revelatory moments came when the team discovered that Michael wasn't just using his ears, he was integrating subtle vibrations felt through his body, changes in air pressure on his skin, and even the way certain sounds made his clothing resonate against his body. His perception was multisensory in ways the engineers had never considered. "We've been approaching acoustic perception all wrong," Johnson realized. "We've been treating it as an isolated input when it's actually part of a holistic sensory experience." This insight led to a fundamental redesign of Tesla's sensor array. Rather than relying primarily on microphones to detect sirens and other important sounds, they developed an integrated system that combined audio input with vibration sensors and pressure detectors, effectively mimicking the full range of sensory inputs that Michael used to understand his environment. The breakthrough came 4 months into the project. The redesigned system was installed in a test vehicle and put through increasingly complex scenarios. The results were remarkable. The vehicle could now detect emergency sirens from 7 blocks away, matching Michael's range, distinguish between real and recorded sirens, predict the direction emergency vehicles would take based on subtle acoustic cues, and successfully navigate the most challenging urban environments without human intervention. When the data was presented to Musk, he immediately ordered the technology to be fast-tracked for implementation across the entire Tesla fleet. But he also did something unexpected. He insisted that Michael Dexter be publicly acknowledged for his contribution. "This isn't just an incremental improvement," Musk told his team. "This is a paradigm shift in how machines perceive sound, and it came from embracing human diversity. I want that story told." At the official launch event for Tesla's updated full self-driving system, Musk did something unprecedented. Rather than taking the stage himself, he invited Michael Dexter to join him as a co-presenter. "Today we're introducing what we call comprehensive sensory perception," Musk told the audience of journalists, industry analysts, and Tesla enthusiasts. "It represents the biggest leap forward in autonomous driving safety since we began this journey. And it would not exist without the extraordinary abilities and insights of Michael Dexter." Michael, standing confidently with his cane, addressed the crowd. "For 56 years, I've navigated the world without sight, relying on my other senses in ways most people never need to develop. What Tesla has done is recognize that there's wisdom in difference, that sometimes what might be seen as a disability in one context can provide unique insights in another. This technology will save lives, and I'm honored to have played a role in its development." The story caught the public's imagination in a way few technical innovations ever do. News outlets around the world covered the unlikely collaboration between a visually impaired teacher and the world's most valuable automotive company. Disability advocates celebrated it as a powerful example of the unique contributions that people with different abilities can make when given the opportunity. For the autonomous vehicle industry, it was a turning point. Tesla's new system demonstrated safety metrics that far surpassed any competitor, particularly in emergency vehicle scenarios. The stock price soared, adding billions to the company's valuation overnight. But perhaps the most significant impact was within Tesla itself. The success of the Michael Dexter approach, as it came to be known internally, inspired a broader initiative to seek out individuals with unique perceptual abilities resulting from various conditions: synesthetes who perceive sounds as colors, individuals with hyperacusis who can detect incredibly faint sounds, and others whose brains process sensory information in uncommon ways. This Neurodiverse Perception Team became one of Tesla's most valuable assets, continuously informing how autonomous systems could better mimic the full range of human perceptual abilities. As for Michael, he continued teaching at the Texas School for the Blind while maintaining his role at Tesla. The substantial compensation allowed him to establish a foundation supporting technology education for visually impaired students. His story inspired countless young people with disabilities to pursue careers in technology and innovation. 1 year after the launch of the new system, the data was clear. Tesla vehicles had achieved a 100% success rate in properly responding to emergency vehicles, a perfect record across millions of autonomous driving miles. More impressively, the technology had prevented an estimated 1,200 potential accidents involving emergency vehicles, likely saving hundreds of lives. In a rare personal interview, Elon Musk reflected on the unexpected partnership that had transformed his company. "Throughout my career, I've sought out brilliant minds to solve the world's toughest problems," he said. "But what the experience with Michael taught me is that brilliance comes in forms we don't always recognize. Sometimes the people who can help us see the future most clearly are those who see the present differently." For a man who had dedicated his life to extending human capabilities through technology, it was a profound realization that human diversity itself might be the most powerful resource in building that technological future. And it all began with a chance encounter on a rainy day in Austin, Texas, proof that sometimes the most revolutionary innovations come not from seeing things more clearly, but from learning to hear what others cannot. Have you ever had your perceived limitations become your greatest strength, or discovered an ability you didn't know you had? Share your story in the comments below. If this unlikely partnership between Elon Musk and a blind teacher with extraordinary hearing resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Impact Stories for more powerful moments that changed lives and industries forever. We bring you new, meticulously researched stories every week that reveal how unexpected encounters can transform our world. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming story about how Jeff Bezos discovered a mathematical prodigy, working as a warehouse janitor, who now silently shapes Amazon's most crucial algorithms. Remember, sometimes our greatest innovations come from embracing different perspectives rather than following the conventional path. See you in our next Impact Story!